What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. Additionally, you can become a patron. Not only is that the best way to support the channel, but additionally, you'll get to vote weekly on a deck tech that I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsom. You rock. Now, let's get into today's deck tech, and today we're doing a deck tech on Kalamax, and this is the weekly voted patron deck tech. Now, we're not doing the typical forks to get infinite power and win the game with the Chandra's Ignition, just because that's not very fun. So there will be absolutely no fork effects in this deck. If you didn't know how that worked, basically you cast a fork, copy in an instant, and then you copy the fork effect with Kalamax, and that will net you infinite fork copies. Now that does absolutely nothing but give Kalamax infinite power. And then from there, you just Chandra's Ignition and kill the entire board. That's not very fun to me, so we're just going to do some kind of crazy things instead. We're going to generate a ton of value. We're playing a lot of cards that say, hey, discard a card and then draw 2 cards. A lot of that has discard a card as part of the cost. So whenever you copy a spell, you actually don't have to pay the additional cost. So this just turns into discard a card and draw 4 cards. We're playing a lot of ramp spells that are instant speed as well, so we can go ahead and sacrifice 1 land and put 4 lands into play, so there's going to be some insane ramp potential in this deck as well. And as far as ending out the game, we're playing a lot of effects that generate creatures whenever we cast or copy an instant and sorcery spell. We're playing Surge to Victory, which is one of my favorite game enders in Storm list, and we have a little bit of a crazy interaction with our 1,000-Year Storm and even repeated reverberation. This is going to allow us to net 4 copies of a spell, and then we could cast something like Azuri's Predation and generate a massive board state of 4/4 beasts. That's basically going to win you the game if you make it to your next turn. We also are on another or some other broken sorcery spells like Call Forth the Tempest, Cascade, and then wipe the entire board and deal a ton of damage. Yes, that's probably going to get us there as well. So if that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. As always, I will make you guys that deal. If we get this video to 500 likes, you can expect a budget version in the near future. Let me know in the comments down below if you like that I'm giving every commander a shot at a budget list. The first thing we have to cover is how we plan to tap him down every single turn. In the late game, it's going to be very easy to attack with him, but in the early game, it can be a little tricky. So here's what I found that's going to be perfect. Smoldering Stagecoach is not only going to give our next instant spell Cascade, but it's going to give our next sorcery spell Cascade as well. So we're going to get a ton of value off of this. Deluxe Dragster is also going to fit seamlessly in this strategy. We can easily crew it up, hit our opponents, it's basically unblockable, and then we get to cast the instant or sorcery spell from our grave or from their graveyard. So as long as we choose instant spell, that will be the first spell we casted, and we can copy it. Kylox Volt Strider is kind of similar here. We get to exile our most impactful instant spells and cast them again, allowing us to copy them again with our commander. Leyline Immersion is one of the best ways to do this because it's not only going to give us the mana to cast our broken instance cards, but additionally it's going to give our commander ward too, so that's going to be a little bit of welcome added protection. Then we are just running 4 ways that we can tap him for mana, and that's just going to do the trick as well. Before we cover all of those broken instant spells we're going to be doubling up on for value, I want to talk about the creature package we're running. Alondra Skydreamer is one of the best cards in this deck. We can easily trigger her every single turn, whether it be our turns or our opponent's turn. So we can get up to 4 Drakes a rotation, and then she has that broken anthem effect that will cause us to, 9 times out of 10, win the game. Similarly, we're running Min Wiley. Now, we don't have a ton of permanents we can just cheat into play with her, but lands count, and additionally, those illusions do get massive pretty quickly. Talran Skytamer is another way to generate a board state of Drakes, notably pairs really well with Alondra. We're also running Dika Fractal Theorist. Now, she's one of the ones that actually triggers on cast and copy, so she can actually make a really big board state fairly quickly. We're also running the Blue O here. It's incredibly busted here because now every single instant spell we cast is just going to get rebound. This means all the spells we casted on our opponent's turn, we're going to untap and recast them on our turn. That's going to be kind of busted, and we're going to run away with the game if this resolves. Not to mention it has a little bit of built-in protection, and it's kind of hard to get rid of. Urabrask is also going to make it a appearance here, not only does it add mana to our mana pool whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, additionally, it's going to start dealing damage to our opponents. Not to mention, it's super easy to flip this guy in this deck, and then we're going to have a soft board wipe for one of our opponents, generate a ton of treasure tokens, and for one turn, we'll be able to cast all instant and sorcery spells from everybody's graveyard for a turn. And notably, he will flip back over for that, so we will get to enjoy the front side of him while we're going off with everybody's graveyards. We are also on Stormkiln Artist. Again, this does trigger on copy and cast, so it's going to allow us to easily generate a ton of treasure tokens each turn, up to 2 on each of our opponent's turn. It's also just going to ensure we have enough to cast an instant spell on each of our opponent's turn, just ensuring that the deck's going to work. After that, we have our cost reducers with Goblin Electromancer, Thunderclap Drake, and Haughty Djinn. We're also running 3 different instant spells that can grab these creatures. We have Court of Calling, Shared Summons, and Signal the Clans. Notably, copying up on Shared Summons can get 4 of our most broken creatures into our hand as long as it's the first instant spell we cast. That's going to be very useful here. Honestly, Court of Calling for 4 just puts Alondra and Talrand directly onto the battlefield, so that's probably going to be the most broken of these. Now we can get into those instant spells we are casting for a ton of value. Growth Spiral, Eureka Moment, and Joint Exploration are kind of insane. Not only do these draw us cards, but additionally they ramp us. It's going to be really hard for our opponents to keep up with us with that. Demand Answers, Thrill of Possibilities. Notably, both of these say as an additional cost, discard a card, so we only have to pay that on the original copy, and we don't have to discard a card for the copy that our Kalamax casts. So this is essentially discard 1 card, draw 2 cards. These are going to be amazing in the deck. Chemister's Insight's just going to be very solid here. All we have to do is discard a land card and we can cast this from our graveyard, so we can ensure that we're going to draw at least 8 cards off of this. That's kind of insane. Frantic Search, also kind of insane because we're going to get 2 copies of this. So now all we have to do is tap, let's say 6 lands, and then cast Frantic Search, and then we can untap all 6 of our lands this way, giving us 9 mana as soon as we can create 6 mana, if that makes sense. Additionally, it's just going to draw us a ton of cards. Quick Study, draw 2 cards, which is effectively draw 4 cards. Valakut Awakening, very flexible here because we can also play it as a land. Unexpected Windfall and Big Score, again, very good cards here because this is as an additional cost, discard a card. So we will only have to discard 1 card, draw 4 cards, and then create 4 treasure tokens. Yeah, that's going to be pretty busted. Bottlecat Blast is a very good removal spell because we're going to get to copy it, and for the copy, we get to keep more additional treasures. This can set us up for a very explosive turn. Return to the Wild Speaker is actually insane in this deck because honestly, I know we can draw up to 8 cards with this, but in reality, I'm probably looking at that second ability, right? If we have a giant board state, this can give all of our creatures +6 if it's the first instant spell we cast. In a scenario where we have a Talrand or Alondra on the battlefield and a decent board state, that can just win us the game. Selendi Visions is another amazing card in this deck because it's going to dig us deep twice and get us 2 more instant cards to ensure that we have enough instants to trigger our Kalamax on each of our opponent's turn. Harrow, remember that is that additional cost. So for the first Harrow, we do have to sacrifice a land, but for the copy, we don't. So this is just going to net us 4 lands for the price of 1. We're also running Roiling Regrowth and Intis Restoration. Now the reason I split these ones up is because we actually do have to sacrifice a land for the copy, but even still, we're ramping a ton. I mean, just sacrificing 2 lands to search for 4, we're up on lands, so we're gonna take that. And even with Intis Restoration, we can sacrifice 2 lands for 6 lands. So again, we're 4 lands up on that. The value's just pretty solid. 3 Steps Ahead. Now this card's just in here for the value. It can counter a spell, it can draw you cards, it can create a token that's a copy of an artifact or creature you control. Again, the flexibility's just there, and this card just does everything we want to do. Seething Song. Now we're probably casting this on our turn and setting up for a massive turn. Just being able to resolve this and add 10 mana to our mana pool is pretty massive. Nature's Claim as some removal. Beast Within, again, Resculpt. All of these are very flexible removal pieces that are now going to double up and remove twice as many things. Moving on, let's talk about the more absurd stuff in the list. We have Galvanic Iteration. This will allow us to essentially double up on our sorcery spells, so now we can get double Azuri's Predation, double Call Force the Tempest, again, just doubling up on those broken spells that Kalamax really doesn't allow us to do. Repeated Reverberation is insane because it's going to give us 4 copies of the next spell we cast, so let's talk about Call Forth the Tempest for 4, Bonus Round for 4, that's going to be pretty insane, Azuri's Predation for 4, Jeska's Will, Surge to Victory, all of these just result in us winning the game. Even Return of the Wild Speaker for 4 is going to give all of our creatures +12/+12. Again, that's probably just going to win us the game. There is one infinite combo in the deck, but it's too funny not to include. We have Surge to Victory and Savage Beating. So as long as you can connect with one creature each combat, you will net infinite combats and just win the game. But even Savage Beating on its own can kind of just win you the game, right? We're going to net up to 3 combat steps, right? Our original combat step, and then Savage Beating is going to give us 2 if it's the first instant spell we cast. And then all of our creatures are going to get double strike. Our commander alone is going to kill a player, and if we have any flyers from our Alondra or Talrand, this can just win us the game. Seagate Restoration is just a flexible land that can draw us a ton of cards. Again, amazing with Alondra. Mizzix's Mastery, kind of hard to resolve, but if you resolve it, you probably will win the game. 1000-Year Storm is absolutely insane in this deck. Once we start getting all of our cost reducers on the battlefield, our Stormkiln Artists on the battlefield, we can actually kind of net even on half of our instant and sorcery spells, so storm counts can get massive in this deck, and then you cast something like Call Forth the Tempest or Chandra's Ignition, and you're just going to win the game. Mana Geyser is an insane ritual. I'm probably adding 15 to 20 mana with this on average, and it really makes for an explosive turn. Case of the Ransacked Lab, again, we have more cost reducers with more card advantage. Mind Splice Apparatus is a cost reducer that gets more and more effective. Now you can see how we're able to chain these 4 CMC spells into these 5 CMC spells. I know that looks like 9 mana, but it's not actually 9 mana in this deck due to all of the cost reducers and rituals. Primal Amulet, again, another solid cost reducer that flips into a way to double up our spells. Past in Flames, just to get an insane storm turn, or cast anything we need from the graveyard. Chandra's Ignition can be a solid board wipe, and it can win us the game in the right scenarios. With that being said, that's going to do it for today's deck tech, guys. I had a lot of fun building this one. If we get this video to 500 likes, I will go ahead and release a budget version for you guys, and let me know in the comments section below if you're liking that I'm doing that almost every video, if you're enjoying the fact that I give each deck tech an opportunity to have a budget list or not. With that being said, again, I would like to thank my patrons, Excessum, Newsome, Chicken Salad, and Prater. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.